Alrighty, it's another one of these. It's like, 30 seconds after the previous video. We're still doing this story that I'm creating of Achilles raiding the city of Thebe. And we have just finished establishing the cast of characters who are on the side of the Thebans. And in order that I can remember who they are, I'm going to repeat them to myself again and to you in case you're losing track. There is King EЭTION, King of Thebe. He has a royal guard of 100 heavily armored, dendroplated guys fighting in his contingent, in his personal contingent at least, with like big tower shields. We have the warrior queen Tecmessa, who is his queen, commanding a force of 50 Amazon women on horseback with pelta shields, crescent-shaped pelta shields, and Eastern dress. We have Alcon, the first of the 6 Theban captains who are all sons of EЭTION. Alcon, who grew up in the fields tilling the land, and then didn't know about his lineage at the time because he's a son of EЭTION and one of his liege lord's wives, so born, not true-born son of him and the queen. He commands a group of conscripted farmers, 150 of them, who use the weapons of their trade in combat. We have Keramakos, who wears, he's like the warlike son of EЭTION, who goes out and does all his dirty work of like fighting in any wars that are necessary and like aggressively going out to fight. He wears a ceramic mask over his face to hide some kind of a disfigurement, and also to instill fear in enemies. He commands a troop of, I think, 200 sort of crack fighters who are skilled with the sword and wear sort of an Etruscan style light plate on the front with a heavy shield. Then we have Mainin, who's a well-beloved son of Tecmessa and EЭTION. He's favored by Artemis, who sticks to the city, but practices, faithfully with his bow every single day. And he commands a troop of archers, I think 150 archers, let's say. We have Mastor, who is another true-born son, sort of the beautiful of them, and he actually fell in love with his sister by marriage, Hypatia, the daughter of Queen Tecmessa from before she came to Thebe. He is a great runner and commands a troop of like guerrilla skirmishers, lightly armored, let's say 100 of them. Then we have Pelion, who's the great tactician. He organized the city's defenses, and he commands a diverse group of many small squadrons that he kind of like is able to keep track of and oversee and put in interesting formations on the battlefield. I think that's 200 total of them, of all different types of troops, including chariots and slingers and archers and spears and every type of soldier pretty much. And then finally we have Clonius, who's the one we just established. He is the oldest of EЭTION's sons, but not born of Tecmessa, and so she like strongly opposes him within the politics of the city. But he's very highly favored by EЭTION, who trained him from birth to like groom him for kingship, and he commands the biggest force out of all the contingents, which is 300 sort of like early hoplites, like proto-hoplites, with aspis shields and Cassipos, or not Cassipos swords, spears and hoplite sort of armor. Again, the implication being that this is like some later age has like imposed that idea onto this, what is in the lore of what I'm creating, what is supposed to be an ancient story. So obviously they wouldn't have had hoplites at that time, but there might be some city that, or some storyteller that wanted to make a creation myth of where hoplites came from, and so that would be part of this story. Okay, so let's keep going with it. All the armies are assembled, of all the captains and king and queen, and they're all in front of the gate of Apollo, in front of the city of Thebe, which again is not seven-gated Thebes, and is also not Egyptian Thebes. It's a third singular Thebe, 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 not Thebes. Okay, let's go. Sing, O great goddess, who knows all, and each of us who tell the stories can only blindly grope in the dark for the information and the stories that are necessary. Tell of that great speech that was given by EЭTION, short but effective, to all the captains who were assembled under him, and the great madness of Ati that came upon his head, and caused all the armies to operate under a mistaken assumption that would lead to their downfall in this catastrophic warfare that ensued. Thus spoke EЭTION, king of Thebe, in front of the shining gate of the sun god Apollo. Up on a hill he was, able to see out in front of him the force of thousands assembled there on the plain, ready to defend that city and to head off the oncoming army so that she may not become encircled. And so spoke that great king, splendid in all his raiment. I see before me many a valorous man and woman who are all ready to fight and defend their homeland. Before us comes the army of the legendary son of Peleus, who they say is a faster runner and a more skilled fighter, better with the spear and the shield and the two-edged sword than any who has come before or who will come later. I do not know if this be true, but we must be prepared for anything. He leads a force, we know, of many hundreds, thousands of myrmidons. His force may be roughly equal in size to ours, through his myrmidon captains who come from the lands of Thia and Skyros and all their smaller areas underneath. But we have several advantages. They are marching on the city. They expect to encircle our town and raid it and raze it to the ground. But we will not let them. We will head them off, and we will take them on the plains or in the forests. Many of you are skilled fighters in many different types of terrain. Such is the diverse ways of all the ways of combat among our city. We have here women from the Amazonian lands. We have heavy-plated men who stand under me and who guard my person, some of whom will be standing out in the front ranks among you. We have with us many of the brave and noble farmers who till the land and who are more skilled than any with the axe or the scythe. We have those crack fighters who are used to shedding blood in service of Ares underneath Keramakos' mask. And we have companies of archers very skilled with the bow and the well-fletched arrow. And we have many skirmishers who can come from any terrain and put surprise attacks upon the enemy who know not what has come for them. And we have with us the great tactician, my son Pelion, who has organized so well our city's defenses, which has never fallen to any foe till this date, and will not fall to any foe in the future. Such is his skill with tactical warfare. And finally, we have my oldest son, Clonius, commanding his force of new fighters, using a combat style that none has ever seen on the battlefield before, and which has done so well to defend the city and to strike fear into all those throughout the land that have encountered them. None can stand up to these fighters and their incredible power. Such are the forces underneath us, and they have but one style of Myrmidon soldier, though I grant they be strong and swift, and their armor be like black beetles among their bodies, protecting every inch. I say that we, in our diversity of combat styles, will find many places to bring weakness into their men. And so we march forth, and we will take them on before they can reach the city. If we can get past the ford, there will be no way for them to get into the city itself, for the river is a natural barrier to our town from all directions, and there be only a few places that it can be forded safely, and that it will not sweep away all men in armor or horses that try to pass. Only a man or two abreast can go through those areas and over the bridges or through the fords, and thus do we have natural defenses all around this town. So we must make all haste that we get before them and on the right side, the outer side of the ford. And thus will we have at our backs the river. And though we may not retreat, I know that no man here would dare imagine such an ignoble thing. For each of us has in our hearts the love of country and of our fellow men and of our wives and children. And we have one other great asset on our side. My herald, Apollonius, bring forth our honored guest. And so, as he spoke, his herald Apollonius, who had brought forth that great captain of the Dolopians, the leader that the Achaeans had so missed since they assembled at Aulis, Phoenix, rose onto that hill next to the man who led the city of Thebe. And he spoke. Phoenix is he who has trained and watched over Achilles in his youth. He knows all there is to know about that son of Peleus and all his myrmidons besides. Every captain that is under him and all the fighting styles that have been taught in that land. and though he does not want to speak, perhaps he will find some reason to join with us, or to advise us in our plight. For he, a prisoner, is more valuable than any that we could have against this force that comes to our gates. And so we will assign many men around him to guard his person, and to not allow anyone to come through and rescue this man. Now, with all our advantages with us, let us march forth and meet this Achilles, the overweening son of Peleus, who has fought many a battle, but is nowhere near proven as the great one they all claim him to be. And so, having spoken, every one of the contingents rose up in a roar of assent, each one thinking of the glory he shall win and the spoils he would bring back to his town, to honor his wives and children and fathers and brothers, and every one who would be coming back with riches enough to buy him land and honor and glory. And so they went forth, all with different styles of discipline and different styles of armor, each one with their own ways of standing forth, none having the same as the next. For Clonius's men were like a whisper, no sound did they make, such was the discipline and love of their captain. And Tecmessa's Amazons wildly shrieked like cranes in the sky who are circling over some fisherman who has just brought in the net well cast and full of fishes jumping out of his boat. And so many forces besides that thundered onto the plain as they marched forth in their ranks, that all the earth around was shaking, as if with the wrath of that great horseman Poseidon. And every one who was within earshot from miles around heard that thundering host, and knew that the city of EЭTION'S Thebe was rising up, and that this would decide the fate of his town. Such was that great arming of the city of EЭTION'S Thebe. All right, not so bad. Put a little speech into EЭTION'S mouth there, essentially doing like a second catalog of the guys, which is kind of interesting because I didn't plan to do that, but it's kind of cool how he's addressing each one of the fighters and claiming that that's the strength they have over the Myrmidons, which is to say that the Myrmidons are all one uniform force, and therefore the diversity of different fighting styles and tactics among the different contingents of Thebe is going to kind of throw a wrench into whatever they have. Who knows if that'll happen that way. Also, they're still operating under the assumption that they're fighting against Achilles' entire force of Myrmidons, which I can't remember if I had one of the gods actually say that they would put that, plan into their head, and therefore kind of sort of mislead them. But I did claim that Ati, the goddess of like madness, of not realizing what's going on, she was sort of standing on his head and causing him to be misled. So there is something in there. Maybe I'll establish further with that later. But I like this idea that their plan is essentially the same plan as what Achilles is trying to do in the other direction, which is that they want to get on the other side of the river before Achilles can, and then Achilles would not be able to cross towards the city of Thebes because the river surrounds it so deeply in so many places, and there's essentially just one bottleneck that they can cross at. So if they can get past that, they would be able to hold the Myrmidons there. Obviously, the Myrmidons want to do the opposite, or would want to do the opposite, but the Thebans don't realize that the Myrmidons are so small in number that are actually coming against their city. And so the thing that's already been laid out by Hera in a previous episode is that what she's actually planning for them is that the Myrmidons would create the illusion of strength by sort of scattering throughout the forest and making it seem like there's a big force of guys, but they would hold the Thebans at the other end of the ford. These are all things that have been established already in previous episodes, and so we're kind of building towards that. Yeah, I think that was pretty decent. We did a little thing about the different sort of disciplinary styles of the guys. It's a little weird that, like, I'm claiming that hoplite warfare was invented not by, the descendants of the Greeks, but it's kind of an interesting wrinkle, that they would be inspired by some other culture that did it, which actually there's, many ideas have to have come from somewhere. So a lot of times that does happen, where one army who opposed a different army with a good idea will then take that idea. Similar to when, I want to say, Alexander's army fought the Scythians or somebody who had the Falk's sword with the Pelta shield, and it was so effective at, like, just cutting down all their guys that they started having to use that type of thing, or at least have something to oppose it. I want to say that's right. I don't know. I could be talking, totally make stuff up there. But that's a common thing, like one army would be inspired by their opponent because they have to learn from what's going on with that. So maybe that would be the sort of implied lineage of how hoplite warfare began. But that was a pretty decent one. We got a lot of stuff in there, and now we're gonna have them march forth, and who knows where the story will go. We might jump to the gods, or to Achilles, back to Achilles or something. Got a couple of Homeric similes in there too, which was nice. Again, not very good ones, or not very long ones, but at least we're getting something, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's that. Again, it's a rough draft, so it doesn't need to be perfect. We'll see what happens.